Good afternoon. My name is Namdi, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA PPM Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star and the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. Ms. Karen Beaudouin, you may begin your conference.
Thank you very much. So this is Karen Beaudouin. I welcome you all to the CA PPM Community Winter Webcast. We've had to have one postponement in the past couple of weeks because of the storm that hit the northeastern portion of the U.S., and I thank you all for joining today with this reschedule. I am very pleased to announce that Jeffrey Bloom, our Community Secretary, is going to be presenting CA PPM for the project management professional. For those that know Jeffrey, he has a wealth of PPM/Clarity experience. He has been involved with the community for, oh goodness, the last 10 years, I would think. And I think I may be overestimating just a little bit, but Jeffrey has been deeply involved. I also want to just give a brief call out to the CA team. Thank you very much for your support for this webcast, as well as to the global user community. And I want to thank the board for their participation and support as well. So with that being said, welcome all. And Jeffrey, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Karen. Just a quick interview. Thank you for those notes, Karen. I've been working with Clarity, or now CA PPM, excuse me, since 2002. My activity started with actual work subcontract with Niku Corporation, the originator of Clarity. I've had the honor of working with 34 international organizations who use Clarity to help them as what CA calls a solution architect to help get the best out of the CA PPM tool. As Karen mentioned, I've been Secretary of the Global User Community Group since 2007 when it was founded. And I also participate in the Project Management Institute. I was Vice President of Programs for the Los Alamos chapter in New Mexico, where I now live, as well as participating with the South Florida chapter when I lived in Miami. Our overview. This is actually the same text that you would have seen in the meeting announcement. The functionality of CA PPM evolves, as all tools do, to match the changes in approach and requirements as more and more people use the requirements. The Project Management Institute's Project Management Body of Knowledge, or PMBOK, is one of the key drivers of the evolution. And what we're going to be talking about today is the Clarity tool itself has evolved to serve a bunch of needs. But the project management professional is becoming more and more central as a certification in many organizations. And this presentation today is focused on helping the PMP who has studied the PMBOK document and passed a certification exam to demonstrate that they fully understand the concepts. What I've done here is to take a look at the 47 project management processes that are mentioned in the PMBOK and looked at it from the perspective of CA PPM. What does it do? What does it provide? How can the PMP who's in an environment where CA PPM is available leverage it to support both the PMBOK best practices and the effectiveness and efficiency of their activities? Okay, this is an introduction. In case there's anybody on the call who's not familiar with PMI, this text was extracted from the PMI.org website, and it indicates that PMI views itself as the world's leading not-for-profit professional membership organization. It delivers value for almost 3 million professionals worldwide. and it advances careers and improves organizational success through certification tools. If you're not familiar with PMI, I would certainly suggest that you go to their website and learn about all of the valuable information and tools and user groups that are available there. Okay, this is my take on how the PMI PMBOK, or Project Management Body of Knowledge, what they call guide, relates to the users of CA PPM. The PMBOK was developed by a global contributing members of PMI, and it really defines the goals, objectives, policies, procedures, techniques, best practices, and key performance indicators for effective and efficient project management. That's a mouthful. At the same time, when we look at the evolutionary history of CA PPM, we can say very much the same things. And recognizing that, then it makes sense to try to look at the two side by side. The PMBOK content is also the basis for the certification, as I alluded to earlier. And the importance in the CA PPM world is that the people, as it says on the bottom, PMPs are a natural constituency for CA PPM, because in fact, all of the tools and capabilities, as we'll see in a moment, that CA PPM provides directly impact and affect how a PMP can use the tool to best advantage. And we know that the PMP is becoming almost a required credential in many project management and PMO environments. So obviously the PMBOK guide is like 600 pages. We're not going to go through anything like that. What we're looking at here is they're going to have two slides. The PMBOK defines knowledge areas, and this is a list of them. And anybody who's familiar with CA PPM will say, oh, those all look familiar. There are modules in Clarity that address all of these things, some more than others, obviously time management, schedule management, and so on. And you notice towards the bottom, the recent enhancements. We're now at version 5 of the PMBOK guide, or 5th edition. It originally started with scope and time and cost, but now there's been an emphasis on quality. Of course, human resources has always been in Clarity, in CA PPM. Communication management, procurement management, and stakeholder management are now becoming more significant as project and program managers look to use the tool to coordinate communication with the various communities. And of course, as we'll see in a few moments, that's where dashboards, scheduled reports, task assignments, and action items can really be help to support that. And the reason I bring that up is that the PMBOK is relatively light on that stuff as to how to do it, whereas in things like time and cost management, there are a lot of specific technical details. Another way of looking at the world provided by PMBOK is the process groups. And if one looks at these process groups, they pretty much become standard, and they in fact track very closely with what's generally referred to as the System Development Lifecycle, or SDLC, initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. Many organizations have adopted this strategy. So let's start looking at them. The initiating group, that's when you start a project, that's a project before it's a project. Clarity's idea capability, I should have put that on this slide, I apologize, is a way of handling a project before it's funded and committed. But in the early phases of project development, where you do an assessment as to whether there should be a project at all, is one of the things that leads to developing a project charter. And of course, in looking at what CA PPM provides, one of the key advantages is the significant facility to support the use of templates and artifacts from prior projects. This often means that in more mature organizations, there are a number of templates that map to different kinds of projects based on what they're doing, the organizations they support, or the kind of outcomes they do. Now, in the past, this has been viewed by people outside who do not have a tool like this as a tough thing to do. But of course, the way templates and artifacts are provided in Clarity, in effect, you can leverage this by simply referring to a past project. That's a real value when, for example, a standard template may have a lot of SDLC tasks, but doesn't have some of the execution details. The ability to be able to go back and look at a project that has been recently done and cherry pick certain strategies and details about getting things done rather than managing the project can be real value. And also, for example, in closing, lessons learned can be a real value to a new project manager, particularly if the person is new in the organization. That's a great way to be able to find and identify information about what's going to make a project successful in this particular environment. Something new to PMBOK in the 5th edition is stakeholder management. Earlier focus was on just the day-to-day management of the project itself, but stakeholders are key. And CA PPM has always had the concept of a participant as someone who doesn't charge hours and doesn't change the project, but has the ability to come in and view it. What's been added to that more and more is tailored dashboards that really reflect the interests of different stakeholder groups. And that can be a real powerful thing. As opposed to some things like scheduling, this is an area where you really need to focus on doing a requirements analysis of what those stakeholders need. Although CA PPM provides a wide range of dashboards and reports, every organization has its own policies and procedures. And this is an area where the CA PPM team is going to be able to focus on how to best adapt this very configurable tool to their needs. The next step is the planning process group. And of course, the PMBOK model talks about project integration management. And that's really, in this case, developing the project management plan, the fundamental way we're going to manage the project. And here, of course, particularly with new project managers, the CA PPM team is going to want to assist them in leveraging CA PPM features as tools to manage, because many project managers may not understand the full range and depth of capabilities that CA PPM provides. And of course, we're again leveraging templates and artifacts. And in this case, we may consider custom processes to support and enforce those policies and procedures. I've had the honor of working on several projects with very extensive business process workflows that facilitates both follow-up and communication between different communities, particularly between project managers and resource managers. Project scope management is when we actually get into developing plans. The important value that CA PPM brings is the portfolio management section, which allows, even before you have a project, to start looking at basic costs, benefits, and a place to put preliminary estimates. As the project moves forward and we start to build a real work breakdown structure, or WBS, the two are married together so that the initial high-level estimates can be replaced with bottom-up cost estimates based on deliverables and dates, resource availability, and scope. One of the things we typically see in this transition is to focus on capabilities for each individual user domain. an organization may have a marketing and an operations division, and of course their perceptions of what's needed to enhance the organization's effectiveness and efficiency will be vastly different. And during scope management, your real focus is looking at the benefits that would come to each organization and the cost across the entire organization. It's obviously, in many cases, the marketing organization, for example, may get some benefit, and of course the IT organization only gets costs. They don't get any benefit out of that. So one wants to look at benefits realization management, something that's become popular in Europe lately, to make sure that when we evaluate the cost benefits, we're looking across the entire enterprise, not just the organizational elements involved in the project. And that's something that the portfolio management capability in Clarity can be configured to do. We often see use cases and supplemental specifications as work products that are planned even in the early scope management phase. All right, so another thing that's in scope management is collecting requirements. In your work breakdown structure, you're going to want to use document management to store and control versions. Many organizations have SharePoint or other document management solutions. And there are tools on the market that will actually connect CA PPM to those systems. The one area that is sometimes missed is that generic document management systems provide a series of hierarchical buckets that have to be managed by the people who are putting documents in or searched by the people who are trying to get documents out. The value of document management within CA PPM is context. In other words, if you go to a project or a portfolio, the documents that you need are already identified for you. And that's always a challenge for most organizations. They're right there. You don't have to hunt for them. You don't have to search for them. A strategy that melds the two techniques is often worth considering. And one of the things that many organizations, particularly large ones, have is follow-up on the review process. The Clarity processes provide a way to implement that. And I've had the opportunity to view some very sophisticated uses of Clarity processes to be able to ensure that the right people are reviewing and approving, something that can be particularly important when high-level management teams are reviewing. And groups of requirements in a work breakdown structure can be used to start scope management, flowing down from portfolio to idea to project. And of course, defining scope, the next piece of scope management is assisted by incorporating groups of requirements that can assist in defining the scope, using the financial capabilities of CA PPM along with portfolio management and project management to get some early budget estimates that later will be developed by rolling up on group scope and group cost estimates. This becomes an evolutionary process, and the value to the portfolio and project management is how this focus on costs and resources helps make it real for the organizational elements who are both contributing and or will be affected by the project. And again, portfolio management in more mature organizations is generally handled by a different group, but the fact that CA PPM integrates the two can be a real value in identifying opportunities. Continuing on with scope management, the next step out of PMBOK is create a WBS. Now, for many people, the work breakdown structure in a project is the heart of CA PPM. And of course, as we've mentioned before, leverage templates, and CA PPM provides scaling where appropriate. So you can take a template and say, you know, my project's twice as big as that or half as that. So that can help you get a good start. And One approach, of course, is to expand project planning and early scope, cost, schedule estimates in the WBS to develop a high-quality execution phase plan. And what I mean there is that in a mature organization, you're going to start in portfolio, and then eventually it's an idea, and then eventually it's a project. CA PPM provides an opportunity to share and leverage those different viewpoints of essentially the same thing. Project time management has always been a strong strength of CA PPM with its timesheets and a very sophisticated integration between timesheets and financials. Many organizations have actually gone to the point of integrating CA PPM with their human resources and financial management systems so that you get a single view of activity-based costs rather than departmental cost allocations. And that's still a challenge for many organizations to be able to say what people are actually doing and what we get for the money we spend, as opposed to just saying we're doing an IT deployment and we need 5,000 hours to do it. Your HR system and your contracting system will tell you how much money you spent, but they rarely give you much insight as to what actually was done. And they don't generally give you much insight into your progress. Do you have a significant variance from plan, or are you on plan? Those are very important in assessing project risk on a continuous basis. So as Jack Welch of General Electric said, his role is not to manage projects. His role is to find projects that are getting in trouble and getting them all the help they need to get out of trouble. And that's one of the key values of CA PPM when it's deployed effectively. Project time management, of course, includes schedules. And of course, there are many tools to create, assess, and modify the work breakdown structure. Define activities. The use of critical path method tasks with both schedule and resource dependencies is encouraged by using the native CA PPM capabilities and or working with Open Workbench or Microsoft Project. The key thing is those tools encourage better management practice. And of course, sequencing activities, both sequence and resource dependencies to ensure feasibility, lower project planning risk. What do we mean? Many people say, well, I could go on a web and use a planning template in SharePoint or many of the web tools out there. The one real value that a central database system like CA PPM provides is that your resource allocations are across the enterprise, so that if your project is dependent on a particular kind of resource and they've been taken away by a higher priority project, you're going to know it sooner rather than later, and therefore be able to plan how you're going to address that variance from plan, whether it be changing the schedule, changing the resources, or changing the scope, or a combination of all of those. Estimate activity resources. Again, leverage copy from template. It's very quick and easy if you can identify a project that's similar, that had a piece of the project that's similar to what you're doing, to go look at several of them and import both the tasks and the resource estimates. It's a lot easier to start there and then modify them to fit your particular circumstance. Ensuring feasibility using cross-project resource availability reporting is a key value. Now, when we get to estimate activity durations, durations are often pulled out of the hat. And many organizations are adopting a 10-80 rule, 10 days or 80 hours per resource, as a way of forcing an organization to start thinking not of money allocated to people and departments, but deliverables that have a value, a date, and a resource assignment that's justifiable given the scope. This is where durations can quickly get out of hand, and using a tool like CA PPM brings that to light, shows you your estimates as early as you can so that you can really start reassessing, do I have the right scope? Do I have the right resources? Should I do it in-house or outsource it? There are many, many issues with project management that having detailed resource assignments and project tasks with durations brings to the fore earlier. And then, of course, the last step is developing the schedule, collapsing all that down, and again, focus on sequence and resource dependencies. Now, looking at it from the PMBOK viewpoint, these are all standard things that get a lot of lip service and a lot of detail in the PMBOK about how to do this. The good news is CA PPM provides much, if not all, of the tools you need to do this effectively. Project cost management. Many tools on the market provide a way to get costs. What CA PPM does is it tracks them from portfolios to ideas to projects, and the portfolio management scenario capability is an extremely powerful tool to do what-if analysis, as in my scope is X and my users, my client has come in and say they need Y. Okay, let's consider several different ways to change X into Y, and then give our client some options. We could do it this way, it costs this much and takes this much time. We could do it that way and it costs something different. And the portfolio management scenario capability allows us to quickly do what-if analysis. So in terms of cost plan management, what we typically see is a spreadsheet using a business case. And I have personally viewed updates to those spreadsheets taking 3 or 4 days. In a tool like CA PPM, it could take 3 or 4 minutes. A real opportunity for enhancements in effectiveness and efficiency. Estimating cost, of course, CA PPM provides from the work breakdown structure all of the things you need to come up with as detailed a cost plan as you have the time and energy to create. And again, because of project baselining and because of the scenarios, it gives you a way to quickly evolve from guesstimates to more solid estimates. And of course, determining the budget. Even at the beginning, you're creating budgets for resource pools in many cases. You don't need to know who the people are, what they cost. And CA PPM's ability to replace roles with resources gives you a constant update to how your budget may vary as you actually bring on resources. Project quality management is not something that's specifically addressed in CA PPM at this time. However, quality activities planned within the work breakdown structure to identify resource and technology requirements for quality assurance is a way to drive excellence in the quality management area, including quality management people early, getting their resources. I had one client I was working with who pointed out that they start with the quality plan. They start with the testing plan because the approach is that if I know what I'm testing, I know what I'm building. Many times, projects start off with a rather fuzzy view of what the outcome will be, but actually starting to develop test plans based on early use cases can quickly help your requirements evolve and your estimates improve and your risk of delivery reduced. Human resource management is one of the hallmarks if you're using the time management capabilities of CA PPM. Timesheets can not only be filled in by all of your staff, there is a requisition process that out of the box is somewhat sophisticated, but often enhanced significantly. I've had the opportunity to do that about 3 times, to ensure that resource requirements are identified, are approved through a chain of both project managers, resource managers, procurement people, and controlled. And of course, you can have both internal and external resource requisitions. For one environment, they actually connected the requisition process, external vendors. They actually delivered on a daily basis updates to the resource open requisitions for resources. This gave them a much more seamless process and helped better prioritize the kind of people who were brought in. And of course, you can feed the results of the resource management process to lessen risk due to early and complete resource requirements, schedule, and scope. If you have an early warning, it's more likely you'll get the right people at the time. Project communication management. As I mentioned before, one of the key things you've got is a number of dashboards and reports that come out of the box. Often, these are customized or configured to meet local requirements. But the hidden gem is that the process of configuring and or customizing is a great way to engage the various stakeholders and constituencies. If it's a black box and the people who are supposed to be getting information out of it don't know anything about it, it has little value. The attempt to try to work with your constituent teams to identify what they really need, what they really want, often you'll find it within the set of CA PPM capabilities, but on occasion, it's certainly possible that you will need to customize to meet local requirements. And certainly, there's a long history of doing that with the very rich set of tools provided. Project risk management. Those familiar with CA PPM know that there's a risk issue and change request subsystem in effect that allows you to capture and process and manage risks. They're tightly integrated. A risk can create an issue can become a change request, tasks and action items to both get work done and to ensure that the business process behind getting approvals and input are all provided are available. So when you're looking at planning risks, identifying risks, performing analyses, both quantitative and qualitative, and planning the responses, CA PPM provides a breadth of tools that can be used, particularly with assigning action items and tasks, to translate a kind of a fuzzy concept of, well, we have a risk into what are we going to do about it, who's doing it, and what happened after they did. And this also can be linked back into portfolio management assessment of scenarios. If we start to identify significant risks, it becomes much easier to create different scenarios, which is different versions of the project that are based on different assumptions. And it's the assumptions, if they change or if they're not realistic, that cause many projects to fail. And that's why focus on risk management and the tools here to help manage the process can be particularly valuable. We're getting down to the planning group is most of the 47 processes. We're almost done here. Procurement management, we mentioned the rather sophisticated requisition process so that procurement of resources can be an automatic thing to a great extent with the procurement organization getting at the newest speed of updated requirements. And then stakeholder management, as we mentioned before, dashboards, scheduled or periodic reports, and then action items and tasks to manage involvement. What we mean there is that a scheduled report can be part of a process so that we're sure that responsible or accountable individuals have actually received it and take action on it. Yes, you can do this via email. You can do it in SharePoint. The only difference, systems like SharePoint, the only difference here is it's all automatically within the context of the project. So someone coming in, whether it be the project manager or the participants, can see it all in one place. And that can be a real value, particularly in a large organization. Now we're to the executing group, which at first you would think has a lot in it, but in fact, there's only a couple things that the PMBOK talks about here: direct and manage project work. And we've mentioned timesheets, Clarity, CA PPM, has the ability, as had for a long time, for a timesheet to collect revised estimate to complete from resources. This can be an invaluable tool for the project manager. If a task was defined to be 80 hours, and we're now 1 week into a 2-week task, and we've already spent 120, what the project manager wants to know is, well, wait a minute, why are you spending so much? But by the way, how much is it going to take to complete it? You're already over budget. That's the kind of identification of variance from plan that's so critical in reducing risk and enhancing the ability to deliver. Of course, there are financial reports. Many independent tools do this, but the fact that CA PPM has deep financial reports means we can track labor and non-labor expense to identify variances from plan early enough to have viable options for a response. Resource utilization reports to identify emergent availability conflicts with other activities. Many times the project's going along real well, and then somebody decides that this other project's more urgent and some of your resources disappear. That's the sort of thing that is a nightmare for a project manager. And although CA PPM doesn't fix it, it certainly makes it more transparent and more visible. And in particular, for example, when you have assigned a resource to a task, your resources will generally be in an organizational breakdown structure. What this means to the PM is there's a rapid and ready way to find out, okay, they stole my DBA, who else isn't available in the DBA department, and how busy are they? So you don't get in an open workbench or Microsoft project kind of tool, because that's focused on schedules. And that's where CA PPM can provide real value. And again, the focus on dependencies. When you're managing project work, what messes things up, all right, maybe I estimated the task wrong, but if we use a building example, I can't put the roof on a house until the walls are there. I can't put the walls until the foundation is there. If I have a big snowstorm, the whole thing is going to be late. That's a sort of dependency analysis that any critical path method scheduling tool provides, but the ability to be able to see that across projects that use resources from many different organizations is a real value in identifying where you might be in trouble. Okay, quality management, as we mentioned before, the main thing when you're talking about performing quality assurance is to make sure that tasks and dependencies in the WBS to discover conflicts. It's not enough to just code it and test it. The QA people have to bless it. And that's something that becomes a critical dependency for the development team if the tasks are in your schedule. HR we mentioned, and of course acquire, develop, and manage teams. The requisition process helps acquire them. Development tasks for scheduling resources can help resource managers figure out what their people are doing on multiple projects and make sure that they manage effectively. And finally, managing project teams. There are many resource management reports and facilities within CA PPM that can help the resource management team do the best job possible with the available resources. Communications management. Many times people think of this as some sort of SharePoint or other shared site. And of course, a library of documents is good, but scheduled reports and on-demand dashboards provide what we used to call decision support. If I'm in a role in an organization, I'm expected to make decisions. And what I don't want is oceans of documents. What I want to be able to do is to ask a question. And I want to know that within the range of questions that is appropriate to my responsibility, can I get a quick and easy answer? And that's where on-demand dashboards and access to project artifacts in the context of the project make it a little bit easier for the people who are tasked with making those decisions to find what they need quickly and efficiently. Procurement management, of course, labor requisitions and non-labor cost monitoring help provide that as a byproduct of your project management rather than as an independent process. And of course, stakeholder engagement is all of the above. The degree to which we provide stakeholders with focused and usable information that help them do their job, they will want to use something like CA PPM. Okay. With integration management, of course, for controlling and monitoring the reports and track changes. Scope validation is one of the things that we can use, again, portfolio scenarios to continually reassess, are we doing the right project and are we doing it in the right way? Of course, timesheet approval processes and resource management tools help the organization optimize their activities in controlling the schedule of time and controlling costs. I'm going to speed up a little bit because we're running to our end here. Project communications and monitoring, controlling, again, reports, dashboards, and most importantly, automated or approval processes can ensure that you're getting follow-up. The last thing we need is a lot of reports no one looks at. And good approval processes linked to providing the right information for decisions can vastly improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the organization. We mentioned project risk before, and of course the out-of-the-box capabilities provide for change control approvals, and that can be key to making sure that scope doesn't get out of hand and the risks are being addressed. Project procurement management, in terms of control procedures, again, the requisition approval process can be key to ensure that the right resources are being authorized and acquired in the right way. We're getting down to the end here. Stakeholder management, control stakeholder engagement. Mentioned many times that engagement is going to come only if you give your stakeholders the kind of information that helps them make decisions. So scheduled and user configurable reports can be fine-tuned to the needs of different organizations as they see it. One client I was working with had a call center. Call centers don't have tasks and they don't have estimates. But what they did have is a very sophisticated call center system to track their resources. And in that case, the results, the output of that call center, the reports they had, were then fed back into CA PPM to not only give them financial tracking, but to allow them to view change projects altering the way their organization works based on numbers of actual activities. This became particularly valuable. But of course, that stakeholder didn't look at CA PPM the same way. There were no tasks, there were no work breakdown structures, but there was real value. On-demand dashboards, as we mentioned, action items and approval processes, a continuing theme here in the management area, because you need to make sure that people are getting what they need and that they're using it and they're stepping up to their responsibilities. Closing, we're down to the last group. Project integration management, close, project, or phase. Formal closing activities should be planned, of course, and managed within the WBS. And lesson learned should be captured in the project artifacts so that when the next project comes along, new or other project, or even the same project manager can come back and leverage those lessons learned and artifacts. Oops. And finally, closing procurements. Again, a tight integration between the requisition system and procurements can not only ease that, but it will also give the resource managers a schedule of when people are going to come off a particular project, so they can either be reassigned or accessed as the case may be. In many organizations, the management of resources at closing is less than pristine. Okay, and our last slide. CA does provide something that's still got the old name, the CA Clarity PPM Accelerator for the PMBOK guide. It typically follows the best practices of the PMBOK and not necessarily, while not necessary for compliance with PMBOK concepts and processes, this accelerator can provide, it's an add-in that provides a set of dashboards, portlets, project templates, document templates, processes, and access rights to support managing in concert with PMBOK best practices. And its use can accelerate the configuration and deployment of PMBOK compliant processes. So I hope this has been a valuable perspective on how CA PPM might be looked at by the project management professional, who is not normally focused on the tool and the techniques. They're focused on getting the job done. And what we focused on here today is to see how we can take advantage of the various capabilities within the CA PPM tool and deliver it to PMPs or project management professionals in a way that they can understand, appreciate, leverage, and utilize. I thank you all for your attendance. If we have any questions, we're certainly open for those now. Karen, if you're still with us, turn it back to you.
Yes. Yep, Jeff, we are. I am still with you. There are no questions at this point. If anyone wants to type in a question, please do so. Or if anyone has a question, please, the moderator will help get those questions through.
Yes.
Until we do receive, oh, please go ahead.
At this time, if you would like to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. That's *1. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
We will be placing a copy of the presentation on the Global User Community website later today.
There is a poll question, a couple of poll questions out there. Please feel free. We encourage you to respond. Let us know your thoughts. It's the only way we can improve. And our next webcast is going to be for the spring, and we're looking for presenters from the user community. So should anyone be interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone on the board. We'll be happy to get everything lined up for you. We really welcome user community involvement. And I think that's it. I don't think we have any questions. So I want to thank everyone for their time today. It's been a great presentation, and we look forward to talking to everybody again soon.
Thank you for your participation. This does conclude today's conference call. You may now disconnect.